Thanks for joining me tonight. For a long time, I've sat in front of a typewriter and pushed out things that were nothing short of therapeutic for me. And I have been asked time and time again to put something together formally so that people will be able to have it around, maybe on their bookshelf, maybe in their bathroom. Well, about a month ago, I got to look at this, Flower House and Feral Sun. And it is a small collection of poems taken from the left-hand side of my typewriter and put together in this neat book by Ramshackle Press. And tonight, I'm going to read a few poems from that. And I'm pretty grateful that you've come here to listen. Thank you. Dreamer. My cat dreams he is the bird bath in the neighbor's yard. My cat dreams of the sparrow's heartbeat fluttering against his narrow tongue. My cat dreams of snapping the hollow feather and eating the ordinary song. My cat dreams he will one day fly and his teeth will taste the yellow sun. This is how. No one taught the sparrow to attack the crow, but the nest begs for mercy and a fist with wings is thrown from the tree. This is how the cat becomes the scorpion, the rooster becomes the rattlesnake, the housefly becomes the hawk. This is how the soldier buries memories, the fillet knife learns the fish belly, the car dreams of ditches. This is how fathers become chainsaws, how mothers become cages. This is how milk spoils, how bread molds. This is how love falls ill, how cities grow old. This is how babies cry, how clouds gather. This is how our eyes eat the earth, how the sun spins the carousel, miracle after vicious miracle. Edges. Am I enough to carry our monsters from the pillow to the burn pile where there's a stump that was used to butcher chickens, but we don't do that anymore because you started cutting yourself below the knee with a thin blade from a broken pencil sharpener, and it looked like a rake of slow paper cuts when you lifted your pant leg at the clinic. The doctor spoke like a metronome about gathering things with sharp edges into a safe place. It felt like a screaming tea kettle left too long on the stove, and I kept asking the invisible if I am strong enough to be the skin of the bear you need me to be. Am I thick enough to hold it all together and wrap myself fully around our fears as the long gray face of winter pushes against the windows? When you know that I know that we know why there's a pause between saying, I love you, sweetheart, and good night now. Leaving our bedroom doors open just a bit to let a handful of light from the hallway plunge into our shadows, connecting my bed to yours. On those mornings, when the sun rolls itself over the ridge and spills out into the coulee, sifting itself through the deer-tick scalp of trees, the thread that connects you as a child and you now is straightened out on the valley floor, and you can see the untangled line between the two pulled taut from fingertip to fingertip, from eye to eye, from beating heart to beating heart. Time is a trout stream, and we are both the water and the rock. Tundra swans. I concentrated on the pressed gumball print scrubs the nurse wore as she thumbed a sting into the soft inside angle of my arm, into the honeycomb of pomegranate lines with a hollow needle a little below the cinched rubber strap. I repeated a rhyme in my head that I wanted to work into a poem. The seed, the spade, the paper cut and orchid made. It was the second batch of lab work in a week. I needed a distraction. I looked down at the tubes filling themselves and thought about thimbles of communion wine, the ruddy stain that Bing cherries leave on my tongue, a ripe plum skin polished against my wool sweater, the drive we took yesterday morning along the river that is beginning to ice over, when we pulled into a wayside rest to watch a gathering of pure white tundra swans, your eye pressed against the telescope, trying to get a closer look, me watching your hair wrestling like fire against a December wind, and wondering about how I was supposed to spend the next season of my life. The truth. When the mirror was young and the skin around my eyes was taut, I figured most things that stood to be true had written themselves into the teeth of time like a tombstone, a tablet carried under the arm of Moses, statues carved into white marble, staring forever at museum walls. Truth used to have a shape. It had edges I could run my hands along. Time was something I thought I could lean against when the skin around my eyes was taut and the mirror wasn't shy. Now I know time and truth are only a taste of snow falling on the warm face of this small life, melting into the lips of now. Winning the lotto. I hope it snows on your stupid face. She had to have been only 5 or 6 years old, and she was holding on to the back of her mother's coat in line at the cash register of the convenience store. Her mother leaning over the counter, picking numbers and pointing at the screen that the lottery machine is plugged into. Her mother trying to touch Providence amongst a choir wall of cellophane-wrapped cigarette boxes and pint bottles of liquor. I hope it snows on your stupid face. I tried not to look down at the girl. Her mother's torso now heaved onto the counter, some of her belly spilling out where clothes were pulled too tightly over her body, the whole queue now reluctantly leaning into her vacuum. I had my card already in my hand to pay for gasoline and ice salt. Your hair is long like a girl. I looked down, smiled, and nodded. I could tell she hadn't yet had breakfast and was probably still in the clothes she slept in. I hung on to my debit card, cupped it in my hand so I could feel its shape, its clean edges. I could tell the little girl was staring at me as her mother finished a morning ritual and started pulling her out into the world. I hope it snows on your stupid face, as she was sucked out through the glass doors forever. I hope it does too, sweetheart. I hope it does too, I said to myself. That's the only trip I needed to make to town for the weekend. We are all beginning to breathe. Frost has made small webs in each corner of the window at sunrise, leaning against the ochre heart of a rolling thaw. This will be the last time it sleeps here. It will try to stay ahead of the geese, hoping that a northward flight will follow the blind silence of winter's reach. By the weekend, it will have passed into Canada, and from there on just a radio report of weather. The rivers open below the lock and dam. Water and ice rush thunder through the gates like white buffalo over the Stampede Crag. Flat-bottom John boats skim the surface, dragging bucktail jigs that start the slow, deliberate walleye crawl. Turkeys fan out and wander monastic, head down in trappled cornfields, combing through the leftover shivers. The slick dart of sparrow tongue is heard inside the windmile. Maple lets loose her memory as sap starts to drip into hanged buckets from the tap. Wet yellow waves sneak across deer trail and taste stump bark. Underneath this amber opening, we are all beginning to breathe. I put my boots on a baking sheet, tuck the laces inside, and slide them into the oven. Mink oil prefers warm leather and an old sock. I pull these down from a shelf in the closet, sit solid, rest them in my lap, sip black coffee, and wait for the oven. Remembering spring. Melt now, like honey over toast, like window prayers breathing yellow air, like the cinnamon heart of a carousel child, like wind that carries the robin's orange belly, like maple tree songs waiting in guitar strings, like a sunrise choir so loud it shines, like the reflection of love in all things. Well, thank you for watching. Like I said, I'm really grateful that you've been able to join me tonight. And if you haven't already, please check out my new book, Flower House in Firelsan. And I promise this is just the beginning. Thank you.